When the Talarians dared to unleash the fury of the human race, they sealed their empire's annihilation. Zachary Griffin, hardened veteran of humanity's space forces, felt the Talarian ambush before he saw it. Particle beams and inertial shells slammed into his recon craft from multiple vectors. Shields failed instantly. Atmosphere vented from ruptured fuel lines. Control surfaces melted and fused. Propulsion cut out. His ship was dead in space. But he wasn't dead, not yet. Riding the bucking deck plates, Zach scrambled into an escape pod as the dying ship burned around him. If the Talarians wanted his hide, they'd have to come and get it. He slammed the launch controls just as the hull shattered in a flash of light and shrapnel. The tiny pod spun crazily, thrusters fighting to stabilize the descent as it plunged through roiling clouds toward the looming shape of the planet below. The Talarian homeworld, Zach realized. Of all the places to crash. He gritted his teeth and held on. The pod slammed down in a bone-jarring impact, smashing through twisted alien jungle. Zach kicked the crumpled hatch open and crawled out into a large clearing, snatching his pulse rifle and sidearm. He was deep in enemy territory now, but he was a human soldier. He'd find a way to survive, complete his mission. He had to. Because what he'd discovered on that ship, in those frantic final moments, changed everything. The Talarians weren't just targeting human border worlds anymore. Led by their fanatic commander Odin, they planned a full-scale invasion of human space. To them, humans were a primitive species, ripe for conquest and subjugation, our worlds theirs for the taking. But Odin was wrong, so very wrong. He had no idea of the sleeping giant he was about to awaken, the implacable rage and fighting spirit he would arouse. Zach swore he'd do whatever it took to stop the invasion, to make the Talarians understand their fatal mistake. For when humanity was pushed to the brink, when the lives of our people and the freedom of our worlds hung in the balance, we would push back 1,000-fold, and the galaxy would tremble before our wrath. The smoking wreckage of Talarian warships drifted through space, a graveyard of twisted metal amidst the stars. On Earth, cheering crowds filled the streets, waving flags and banners proclaiming humanity's great victory over the alien invaders. Among them strode Zachary Griffin, his battle-scarred face broadcast across holovid screens planet-wide. Military leaders shook his hand, medal after medal pinned to his chest. He had done it, uncovered the Talarian plans, led the counterattack that broke their invasion, saved humanity from conquest and subjugation. But even as the celebrations roared around him, Zach felt a cold weight in his gut. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. His instincts screamed that more was coming, something worse. His fears were confirmed within days as grim-faced generals summoned him to an emergency briefing. They sat around a hollow projector table as Odin, the broken Talarian commander, glared sullenly at them, his wrists cuffed. "Talk, invader," Admiral Holloway growled. "Who are you working for? Why attack us?" "Fools," Odin spat. "We were mere pawns. The Zorgan Dominion sees you humans as a threat. They used us to soften you up before the real war begins." A hush fell over the room. The Zorgons. A ruthless empire that had enslaved dozens of alien races. Humanity's most powerful potential rival. "What do they want?" Zach asked, though he already knew the answer. "Your destruction," Odin sneered. "The Zorgons will not allow any species to challenge their supremacy. Your worlds will burn, your people slaughtered or enslaved, your defiance crushed." Zach smacked his fist on the table. "Like hell they will. If these bastards want to fight, we'll give them one they won't soon forget." Plans were laid, strategies formed. Humanity would not cower or retreat in the face of this existential threat. They would take the war to the Zorgons, strike first and strike hard. Zach found himself promoted to captain, given command of an elite special ops team with a single purpose: raise hell deep behind enemy lines, weaken them for the main human assault to come. His new squad assembled before him, each a hardened veteran in their own right. Towering Sergeant Mac, built like a tank with a temper to match. Private Riggs, a wild-eyed demolitions maestro never far from a big boom. And Lieutenant Kai, ace pilot with lightning-fast reflexes. "Listen up," Zack barked. "We've got a job to do. The Zorgons want to wipe us out. Our mission is to make sure that doesn't happen." In the days that followed, they struck like lightning across Zorgan space. Shipyards erupted into flames, supply convoys ambushed, weapons depots reduced to rubble. On a raid against a major Zorgon fuel refinery, Private Riggs whooped with glee as he slapped charges across pipeline junctions and processing vats. The blast ripped the facility apart, roiling fireballs hurling Zorgon bodies through the air. "Damn, I love the smell of toasted alien in the morning," Riggs cackled. Sergeant Mack decapitated a charging Zorgon trooper with a swipe of his power axe, splattering ichor. "Shut it, Riggs. We gotta move. More of 'em inbound." Zack and Kai laid down blistering suppressive fire, plasma rounds and micro-missiles blasting Zorgon bodies apart. The aliens fell by the dozens, but still more poured towards them, a relentless tide of fanatical warriors. The team fell back, leaping into their waiting dropship as ruptured fuel tanks detonated behind them in a massive secondary explosion, engulfing the refinery in an apocalyptic maelstrom of fire. Meanwhile, reports streamed in of vicious fleet battles erupting between human and Zorgan armadas. Thanks to superior human tech, stronger energy shielding, more potent beam cannons, and faster FTL engines, the human ships punched through Zorgan formations, blasting enemy vessels to fragments. Trained human marines and powered exoskeletons boarded and overtook dozens more. For every human ship lost, 3 Zorgon craft burned. Zack reviewed the stellar cartography, marking off systems and hyperlanes that had fallen under human control. They were hurting the Zorgans, no doubt. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. Then a new intelligence intercept crossed his datapad, and Zack felt his blood run cold. Long-range scans had detected something massive under construction in Zorgan home space, something codenamed the Star Eater. Analysts believed it was a monstrous superweapon capable of destroying entire solar systems, meant to purge all human worlds from the galaxy in a single genocidal stroke. Humanity's doom made manifest. They couldn't let that happen. Despite the toll, the Star Eater must be destroyed before it could bring Armageddon to mankind. "Gear up and report to the hangar in 10. Zack ordered his squad. "We've got a weapon to kill." But first they needed specifics, coordinates, schematics, defenses, and that meant recon. Zack flew them dark and deep into Zorgan territory, skimming the surface of an uncharted moon to avoid enemy sensors. Unshakable focus etched his features as he guided them in. Then proximity warnings shrieked. A trap. A dozen Zorgan hostiles erupted from concealed bunkers, rockets and plasma fire hammering their ship. Kai wrenched them into evasive maneuvers, thrusters screaming, but it was too late. Their engines detonated, sending the craft into a wild spin. They slammed into the rocky ground, hatch crumpling, bulkheads collapsing. Zack kicked his way free of the ruined cockpit, pulse pistol up. "Status!" "Bad." Riggs staggered from the wreck, hauling a limp Mac behind him. "Bastards were waiting for us." A hail of plasma rounds scorched the dirt around them as more Zorgons crested a ridge. "To cover!" Zack roared. They scrambled behind a shattered wing, lasers hissing around them. Zack blind-fired back, mind racing. Comms were dead, engines slagged. No way off this rock. They were outgunned and outnumbered. On the wrong side of the line, hunted, and on the run on a hostile moon deep in enemy space. But they had a mission. Their people needed them. The data on that superweapon could save humanity. Failure was not an option. Zack keyed his comm implant, broadcasting on all frequencies. "This is Captain Zachary Griffin to any human ships receiving. Authentication code Delta Omega 9. His squad looked to him as he spoke, faces hardening with renewed purpose. No matter what it took, no matter how many Zorgons they had to blast through, they would find a way. Because this wasn't just another battle. It was a fight for humanity's very survival against a cruel alien empire hell-bent on their annihilation. And if there was one thing humans did best, it was spit in the face of any odds and fight like hell to live. The Zorgons were about to learn that the hard way. Zack's comm crackled to life, static breaking through the silence. Captain Griffin, this is Command. We've detected unusual Zorgon activity in your sector. What's your status? Zack exchanged glances with his team. This was it. Command, we've acquired critical intel on the Zorgon superweapon, requesting immediate extraction. Negative on extraction, Captain. Zorgon forces are converging on your position. You'll have to fight your way out. Zack gritted his teeth. Understood. Griffin out. He turned to his squad. All right, people. We've got the info we came for. Now we punch our way home. Mac hefted his massive railgun. Just point me at him, Cap. They sprinted for their battered ship, plasma rounds sizzling past. Kai slid into the pilot's seat, fingers flying over controls. Multiple bogies inbound, she called out. Starfighters closing fast. The ship lurched as Kai punched the throttle, rocketing them off the moon's surface. G-forces slammed Zack back in his seat as they climbed. Riggs manned the rear guns, hosing streams of hypervelocity rounds at the pursuing fighters. One Zorgon craft exploded in a satisfying fireball. Yeah, eat shit, you tentacled freaks. But more enemy ships swarmed in, peppering their hull with plasma fire. Alarms blared as systems failed. Shields critical, Kai shouted. We can't take much more of this. Zack saw a gap in the enemy formation. There, push through on Vector 270. Kai rolled the ship hard, squeezing between two Zorgon cruisers. Their point defense guns tracked wildly, unable to get a solid lock. For agonizing minutes they weaved and juked. Kai's piloting skills pushed to the limit. Riggs whooped with each fighter he downed, but the Zorgons kept coming. Warning klaxons screamed as a lucky shot pierced their armor. Smoke filled the cabin. Engine's failing, Kai yelled. I can't hold her. Zack's mind raced. They had one shot at this. Kai, plot a random hyperspace jump, anywhere uninhabited. But sir, with the engines damaged. Just do it. Kai nodded grimly and punched in the coordinates. Space warped around them as they leapt into hyperspace, the battered ship groaning in protest. They emerged in an empty star system just as the engines gave out completely. They drifted, powerless. Zack breathed a sigh of relief. They'd made it, for now. All right, team, we're not out of this yet. We need a new plan to hit that superweapon. He laid out his audacious scheme to infiltrate the weapon platform. It was insane, borderline suicidal, but it was their only shot. His team's faces hardened with commitment. They'd come too far to fail now. Let's go bag us an alien death ray, Mac growled. They set to work, jury-rigging repairs and cobbling together Zorgon disguises. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. And Zachary Griffin would be damned if he let the aliens win. Win this war, for humanity. The extraction came swiftly. One moment, Zack and his team were adrift in space. The next, they found themselves aboard the UNSS Valiant, flagship of the 7th Fleet. As Zack stepped onto the bridge, Admiral Holloway's grim expression told him all he needed to know. The superweapon's gone, but we paid a hell of a price, Holloway said, gesturing to a holomap. Red icons swarmed across human space. The Zorgons regrouped while we were focused on that damn thing. They've taken Epsilon Prime, New Eden, and a dozen other colonies. Now they're pushing for Sol itself. Zack's fists clenched. All that sacrifice, and still they were losing. What's our next move, sir? Holloway's eyes bored into him. You're it, Griffin. Congrats on your field promotion to colonel. I'm authorizing you to form an elite strike force. We're calling it Griffin's Fury. You'll spearhead our counteroffensive. Zack didn't hesitate. I'll need the best we've got, and carte blanche to requisition whatever I need. You've got it. Just get it done. Over the next week, Zack scoured personnel files, combat footage, and after-action reports. He handpicked over 500 of humanity's finest warriors, Marines who'd held the line against impossible odds, pilots who'd flown suicide missions and come back alive, techs who could jury-rig miracles from scrap. He found them scattered across a dozen ships and stations, shell-shocked survivors of massacred units, mavericks languishing in the brig for insubordination, each one a killer with fire in their eyes and vengeance in their hearts. Their first target, Arcadia 4, a vital agri-world, now a Zorgon stronghold. "Listen up!" Zack barked to his assembled troops in the Valiant's hangar bay. "We're punching straight through the Zorgon blockade, establish a beachhead, then raise hell. Hit their supply lines, disrupt their comms, make those alien bastards bleed for every inch." Grim nods all around. These weren't green recruits, they knew the score. The drop was pure chaos. Zack's strike cruiser screamed through the atmosphere, point defense lasers blazing. Zorgon fighters swarmed like angry hornets. A wall of flak filled the sky. 30 seconds, the pilot shouted. Zack checked his armor seals one last time. "For Earth!" "For Earth!" 500 voices roared back. They hit dirt hard. Zack's boots slammed into alien soil as plasma rounds hissed past. All around, drop pods crashed down, disgorging heavily armed humans into the teeth of Zorgon defenses. "Push forward!" Zack bellowed, his rail rifle spitting hypervelocity rounds. A Zorgon's head exploded in a spray of ichor. "Secure that ridgeline!" For hours they fought, clawing their way uphill. Zorgon bodies piled up, but still they came. Zack lost count of how many he killed. Finally, as dawn broke, they stood atop the hill. Zack planted the banner of Griffin's Fury, a snarling wolf's head on a field of stars. Below, the Zorgon city burned. "Beachhead secure," Zack reported. "We're in." Over the next weeks, Griffin's Fury lived up to its name. They struck without warning, vanishing before the Zorgons could respond. Munitions depots went up in flames. Comms relays fell silent. Convoys disappeared without a trace. But it was in the ruins of New Houston that everything changed. Zack led a squad to hit a Zorgon research facility. Instead, they found hell. Humans in cages, on operating tables, pieces of them in jars. "They're experimenting on us," whispered Corporal Chen, horror etched on her face. Zack's blood ran cold as he scanned captured Zorgon databanks. This wasn't just an invasion. It was extermination. The Zorgons sought to twist human genes to their own ends, then wipe out the rest. He made his decision then. No more half measures. The assault on the Zorgon command complex was a one-man suicide mission. Zack went in alone, armed with nothing but his sidearm and white-hot rage. Alarms blared. Zorgon warriors fell by the dozens. Zack fought his way up floor by floor, a force of nature leaving destruction in his wake. He burst into the command center, pistol trained on the Zorgon leader's bulbous head. "Not one move!" Zack snarled. What followed was a galaxy-wide broadcast. Zack, his armor stained with alien blood, laid out his terms. Full withdrawal from Arcadia 4, or the Zorgon commander died. They tried to negotiate, to stall for time. Zack ended the talks with a single pistol shot. He held up the commander's severed head, his voice cold as space itself. "You have 1 hour to surrender, or I'll do this to every last one of you." The Zorgons broke. One by one, their ships fled the system. Their ground forces laid down arms. As news spread of Griffin's Fury's victory, a fire lit in human hearts across the galaxy. The tides of war began to turn. Zack stood aboard the Valiant once more, staring out at the stars. His eyes blazed with cruel purpose. The Zorgons had brought this upon themselves. Now humanity would show them the true meaning of fury. Fury. The word echoed in Zachary Griffin's mind as he stood on the bridge of the UNSS Valiant, his eyes fixed on the holographic display of Zorgon-occupied space. The victory at Arcadia 4 had been just the beginning. "All ships, this is Colonel Griffin. Commence Operation Thunderbolt," he commanded, his voice cold and precise. The vast human armada surged forward, bypassing the main Zorgon fleets with calculated precision. Zachary watched as waves of heavily armed assault shuttles and boarding craft swarmed towards the alien supply stations and shipyards. On the tactical display, Red icons representing Zorgan facilities blinked out one by one. Zachary allowed himself a grim smile. The aliens had no idea what was about to hit them. "Sir, we've breached the outer defenses of Supply Depot Zeta 9, reported Lieutenant Chen, her fingers dancing across the tactical console. Zachary nodded. "Commence boarding operations. I want that station gutted." Through the ship's external cameras, he watched as human troops in sleek exosuits cut their way into the Zorgon station. Plasma fire erupted from within, but it was short-lived. Within minutes, the humans had full control. "Depot secured, sir," Chen announced. "Zorgon resistance was minimal." "Good. Strip it bare. I want every scrap of technology and resources loaded onto our ships." As the hours passed, reports flooded in from across the sector. Zorgon dry docks were reduced to floating debris fields. Freighter convoys carrying vital supplies to the alien front lines were ambushed and destroyed. Zachary's comm crackled. "Colonel, this is Captain Reeves of the Thunderchild. We've intercepted Zorgon transmissions. Their fleet commanders are in panic mode. They can't figure out our attack pattern." "Excellent," Zachary replied. "Keep them guessing. Hit them from all sides." The blitzkrieg continued relentlessly. Zachary coordinated strikes against Zorgon command centers and communication hubs, throwing their entire chain of command into disarray. On the ground, Griffin's fury lived up to its name. Zachary led a daring raid on a key Zorgon fortress world, personally breaching their central command bunker. "Hands where I can see them, you tentacled freaks!" he shouted, his rail rifle trained on the alien officers. The Zorgons, their usual arrogance replaced by fear, complied without resistance. As the campaign pressed on, Zachary unveiled humanity's latest weapons: electromagnetic pulse bombs that fried Zorgon systems, nanotech swarms that ate through alien armor like acid. "Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from Fleet Admiral Holloway," Chen reported. Zachary straightened. "Put him through." Holloway's hologram flickered to life. "Colonel Griffin, your offensive has exceeded all expectations. The Zorgons are on the run. It's time for the final push. You are hereby ordered to strike at the heart of the Zorgon Empire, their homeworld itself." Zachary's eyes gleamed with cold purpose. "Understood, sir. We'll give them a day of reckoning they'll never forget." The assault on the Zorgon throne world was brutal and swift. Human warships tore through the disorganized outer defenses, raining fire upon the alien cities below. Zachary stood at the head of his troops as they stormed the Imperial Palace. The Zorgon Emperor, once so proud and cruel, now cowered before him. "Please," the alien leader begged. "Mercy." Zachary's face was a mask of stone. "Mercy? Like the mercy you showed our colonies, our people?" He gestured to his troops. "Take him, and bring the broadcast equipment. It's time the galaxy witnessed the price of threatening humanity." As the live feed began, Zachary turned to face the camera, the defeated Zorgon leader kneeling beside him. "To all who would threaten Earth and her colonies, let this be a lesson," he declared, his voice ringing with cold finality. "Humanity will not go quietly into the night. We will fight, we will survive, and we will make you regret ever raising a hand against us." He turned to the Zorgon Emperor. "Do you have any last words?" The alien, broken and defeated, looked up at Zachary. "You were right," he whispered. "We should never have started this." Zachary's eyes were pitiless as he replied, "No, you should not have." As the executioners led the Zorgon leader away, Zachary turned back to the camera. The message was clear. Humanity would no longer be the prey. From this day forward, they would be the hunters. And woe to any species foolish enough to test their dedication again.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.